When nature calls, Maui is the only answer. Satisfy your wanderlust and take to the open road in one of our fully equipped motorhomes. Boasting a fridge, gas stovetop, AC and bathroom, our motorhomes are comfortable and spacious, making any self-drive adventure in the Kruger or garden route memorable. Whether you travel alone, as a couple or the whole family, Maui has a motorhome for you. Maui, home where you roam.
Morning, you two. Hello. Look at that, guys.
I haven't ever heard a giraffe say a bad word about another animal.
Nom, 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 nom. It's a trunk party.
When adventure calls, answer with Brits. Take on Southern Africa's most breathtaking landscapes from behind the wheel of a fully equipped 4x4 or SUV. From tents and bedding to a fridge and full kitchen gear, everything you need is already on board. And with 24-hour roadside assistance, you're free to go further and explore with confidence. Open roads, total freedom, no limits, just the journey ahead. Brits, equipped for adventure.
All right, and a very, very good afternoon to everybody. Welcome to Live with the Watering Hole this afternoon. I am Jaapie Potgieter and I'll be your host this afternoon. Welcome to Live with the Watering Hole this afternoon. I am Jaapie Potgieter and I'll be your host this afternoon. I am currently looking at some birds up in a very thorny tree at Tortillas Camp in Kenya. And I am fairly sure that that might even be a tortillas tree that this little bird is sitting in. It looks like a wattled starling. And some wax bills. And that looks like a lesser masked weaver that's also just come in. So very busy this afternoon here at the Tortillas Camp in the thorn tree. My name is Yapi Potgieter, and I am going to be your host this afternoon. Had a little bit of technical issues this afternoon with things, but everything good now, and I'm very, very happy to be looking at all the different little birds here in the tree. It looks like a cutthroat finch up there as well, and whatever that may be, some widow birds. It looks like all these little birds are not only looking for some shade, which I'm sure this tree provides, especially for a small little creature like a bird, since the small leaves of this acacia is a little bit small to provide ample shade for larger creatures, although the denseness of the branches coupled with the leaves does provide good shade. If something would be sitting underneath it or standing underneath it. But very good spot for little birds, especially since you can see those long spiny thorns there. And they provide some protection as well. Little bird is small enough to hop around. Catherine, you two are. Thank you very, very much. You're saying, hello, Yapi, welcome back. And Lenny, you saying that this is gorgeous. Well, thank you. It's very good to be back this afternoon. And what a nice place to start in a tortillas tree, or a umbrella thorn, as it's also known. Tree that some people regard actually as the very quintessential safari tree. And from tortillas or umbrella thorn, we're going to head over to camel thorn, where we've got some elephants splashing around. Just look at that, camel thorn farmstead in Botswana. What a beautiful, beautiful sight. You see these elephants have been cooling down. Wherever they came from, they are certainly making sure that they covered all the vital spots underneath the belly, the lower part of the body, behind the ears. And now they're heading off. I'm sure they're heading off to a shadier spot where they'll probably continue feeding, or maybe even take a quick rest. But looking at how wet they are from the mud and the water, I think they probably get a little bit of a stop at a dusty spot to cover themselves. Elephant bulls, always a magnificent sight. One of my favorite creatures, one of the most spectacular things to look at. Just their sheer size alone is something that one cannot ignore. But just look at this watering hole. There's some impala down there coming down for a drink this time of the day. This is a very busy time. Very, very busy time of the day. All the animals are coming down to drink. So, as these impalas are finding their ideal spot to drink, I think we're going to head over to Tao to see other very large animals coming down to drink. Wow, just look at that. That is an incredible sight. Also the first time in a little while that I've laid eyes on Tao. Especially this watering hole, it's changed completely since the last time I've had the privilege of seeing it. Lots of greenery around now. You can see even some grass up against that hill there, the background. And what a beautiful contrast with all these elephants just casually feeding. You can see some vigorous ear flapping there. I'm sure the combination of all the flying insects and lighting flies going after that soft skin on and behind the ears near the water, as well as the heat. These elephants are making sure that they are cooling down and also making things a little bit more bearable. Some waterbuck having a look as well. We got a comment from Melanistic Marble saying the ellies are very black in Botswana today. That would be very likely due to the fact that they've had that different type of mud around that watering hole that I saw. It looked like there was some grey soil, very grey soil on the edge of that watering hole. And funnily enough, if we look at these ellies here at Tao, we can see there's 2 or 3 of these, especially those 2 larger ones. It's got a little bit of a reddish hue on them. And generally, larger pachyderms, like elephant and even rhinoceros to an extent, wherever they are, and the fact that their skin is of such they need to ensure that they cover it with mud and protect it against the sun and the heat of the day, we find that these larger pachyderms, that's so to say grey in color, with a grey skin, they tend to take on the hue of the soil of a particular area. It is quite interesting, especially with elephants that tend to travel quite far in certain regions. Wherever elephants come from, they come from a different reserve or a nearby reserve, especially in open systems. And one can often tell whether the elephants just come to drink water or whether it's a resident herd within the area from the color or the hue of their skin. Even from single reserve, certain elephants, you can tell from which part of the reserve they might have moved over to the water. Large animal can quickly cover ground. Joan Mello, I see you saying greetings. Very, very good to hear from you. Thank you, thank you. Happy Easter to you too, and happy Easter to everybody else. It is a beautiful day to everybody. Some good meals, kind of like these elephants are having currently. And what I find interesting here is there's quite a range of different ages within this group of elephants. And you can see that big elephant cow right in the middle has a tiny baby with her. The only one that's sticking close to mother. You can see under the big head, sticking close but also utilizing mom's body size to get a little bit of shade and a little bit of respite from the heat. Now let's see, this other little one in front here looks slightly larger. Might just be the distance from the camera that might be affecting my view, but it looks like this little one's also coming in for some shade while feeding. right near the mother's trunk. We got a good question from Benji. Benji's asking, how do elephant family groups work? Who leads the herd? And how do they communicate? Well, Benji, very, very interesting question to answer. I think it's quite a long answer, to be honest. Elephant herds are extremely complex, and depending on the region that they come from and the particular circumstances in that area, that plays a vital role in shaping their dynamics. It can vary quite a lot, and I think even though a lot of research has been done on elephant group dynamics and elephant herd structures, I think from my side I can only really say some of the basics that seems to be agreed upon, but I think each individual herd things can be a little bit more complex, and I think we constantly realize that. And having spent a lot of time with elephants, I have noticed that from one herd to the next, the roles are always slightly different. Even though there are certain conclusions and certain general base structures that's in place in every herd. So generally, an elephant herd is a matriarchal society, and they generally have one female, which is one of the older or larger, more prominent females that make a decision, and the rest of the herd kind of follows that decision. But however, it is not a, so to say, dictatorship like this. The elephants do play a role, the other elephants in the group, the other senior elephants, in making those decisions and determining where the elephants go. But generally, it's a matriarchal society with a matriarch and then related elephant females and their offspring. That form the herd, and then they're young. When the young bulls are a certain age, they will try and leave the herd to move on and spend time on their own, and often they form groups with some of the older males roaming on their own. And that is what we refer to as bachelor herds often. Well, from this elephant herd, let's head over to Muela, where we've got more elephants. Just look at that. This is quite interesting. Seeing this, now we can see, and getting back to the question that Melanistic Marble had earlier, or a comment about the black ellies in Botswana. We can see these elephants here are utilizing this mud. Look at that elephant. It will go down. There he goes. It's quite a deep hole he's dug for himself. You can see he's using his tusks. Now, as opposed to the elephant herd that we saw just now with the females and their offspring, over here we might have, by the looks of it, looks like there's a herd there in the distance, but I think there's also quite a few bulls. These guys here in front, like this one enjoying himself, looks to me like a bull. And then a few younger ones. You can see they're just loosening that black soil down in the depression. We can see from the hill in the background, it's in a depression where the water's gathered. And that's probably why the soil is a little bit darker. All the nutrients and all the organic material that's washed down. You can see it looks like some bare soil patches on the rise at the back. It's likely because of a little bit of, could be lots of animal movement, especially large animals like elephant. And maybe the vegetation layer has disappeared to the extent that extreme rain kind of washed the top layers away. With a little bit of patchwork of bushes there standing, holding on to some of the soil there. I know in certain parts of Botswana, and especially here at Moela, it can get very dry at certain times of the year. And that, coupled with lots of animal movement, means that the top layer of the soil often becomes very hard. So when the rains do come, then it tends to create a little bit of erosion, especially after a long, sustained dry period. But just look at all these animals coming down. Looks like quite a bit of zebra in between. Looks like a very hot day there. So no wonder all these animals are coming down. And that's what we like about Live at the Watering Hole, is we get to see the busiest time of the day for most of the creatures out in the bush. We got a question from Ash. How does the dry season affect elephant concentrations around rivers and watering holes? Ash, I would say also not a straightforward question to answer, but in basics is elephants are very dependent on water, and they do enjoy spending a lot of time in water. So when it's dry, we tend to find the limited availability of water kind of dictates where elephants would be spending quite a lot of time. Generally speaking, elephants are quite smart. They are quite large, so they can cover quite a lot of distances, and they do tend to spend a bit of time in one area and then move on to an area that can be quite far from that to another watering source. But they don't spread out as much during the drier seasons when water is limited, at least when surface water is limited. Because I think what we sometimes tend to forget is that the surface water is what affects them. There might be quite a lot of groundwater in certain areas, and in some areas it does well up. And historically, elephants had all of these areas kind of figured out to know exactly during times of drought where to go in case it gets down to desperate measures. But the elephants are indeed smart enough to know that they need to move around to get most. Sometimes you find that there's a lot of water in one area, but the elephant concentrations in the area pick up so much over the beginning of the dry season that suddenly the water levels drop and then disappears. And then suddenly you have no elephant. So I've often found that in certain areas, elephants tend to be seen a lot at the beginning of the dry season, and then towards the end of the dry season you almost see no elephant. Even though there's no water or very little, you see no elephant until after the first rains, and then they start to move again. Where with other animals, like the zebra for instance, they will tend to stay more within their home range. But yeah, generally speaking, when it's drier, you tend to find a lot more elephants around watering holes, as we're witnessing here, with quite a substantial group coming in. And by the looks of it, they're separated between some herds, some groups of bulls, younger, I'm sure there's some older bulls, It's a bit of a funny scene. Have a look. That elephant's moving over with quite a bit of haste. I wonder what he's going to go do there by the other elephant bull. But it looks like there was a bit of play going on. Now this one's coming in to investigate the dung. So from one watering hole with lots of elephants, we're going to head over to the Olifants River, where we've also got a flowing river, and let's see who's come down there.
When nature calls, Maui is the only answer. Satisfy your wanderlust and take to the open road in one of our fully equipped motorhomes. Boasting a fridge, gas stovetop, AC and bathroom, our motorhomes are comfortable and spacious, making any self-drive adventure in the Kruger or garden route memorable. Whether you travel alone, as a couple or the whole family, Maui has a motorhome for you. Maui, home where you roam.
We invite you to a different kind of safari. Rugby and Safari by Wild Earth Travel brings UK supporters to South Africa for the Nations Championship 2026. Watch England, Scotland and Wales go head-to-head with the world champion Springboks. Then go beyond the stadium, from world-class rugby to luxury safari. Hosted by a South African rugby legend. This is the only way to tour South Africa. Rugby and Safari with Wild Earth Travel.
Yes. If you want to pry, that's very, very good wood.
They're in deep meditation.
Look at that. It's really amazing.
He's so happy to see Mom.
They're lovely, these two males, aren't they?
Yes! Boom!
When adventure calls, answer with Brits. Take on Southern Africa's most breathtaking landscapes from behind the wheel of a fully equipped 4x4 or SUV. From tents and bedding to a fridge and full kitchen gear, everything you need is already on board. And with 24-hour roadside assistance, you're free to go further and explore with confidence. Open roads, total freedom, no limits, just the journey ahead. Brits, equipped for adventure.
Even just laying on the ground for other plants and seeds to grow within it. There's also seeds that gets dispersed that way. The elephants eat the fruit from trees. The seed goes through the process of their digestion, and then it lands wherever it lands within a pile of fertilizer. So it gives it a good head start. One tree that's famously dispersed by elephants and also famously known as a delicacy to elephants is the marula tree, especially in South Africa's Lowveld region. And we've also got a comment from Shaina saying hello and welcome, Yoppie. Hello to you too, Shaina. And a beautiful Easter Sunday to you as well. Almost as beautiful as this riverine vegetation that's so lush and green after all the rain we've received in South Africa's northern parts this season. Marilyn Hempshall is asking, are there any crocodiles there? Marilyn, interestingly enough, there used to be an old saying that all the rivers that flow east in Africa contain crocodiles. And a lot of those flowing west don't. I don't know exactly where that comes from. I do know that both east and west flowing rivers have crocodiles in them. But in this river, the Olifants River, there certainly are crocodiles, indeed. Very big ones as well. It is one of the prominent rivers that flow through the Lowveld region, through the Kruger Park. It's a major green artery that runs through the Kruger National Park, and it meets up with the Limpopo River just on the other side of the South African border in Mozambique. And from there it becomes part of the Limpopo and continues into the ocean, the Indian Ocean. But yeah, indeed there are crocodiles, even though we might not see some here. But not much large mammal activity this side on the Olifants River. Very interesting to note how this river, look at those banks. This river has substantially expanded after these last rains. But I think we'll leave this tranquil river for now and we'll head back over to Moella, where we have more elephants that's come down. Whoa. Just look at that. That is an incredible sight. You can see almost all the elephants in this region have had the same idea today. Now it's very difficult. I can see a lot of zebra there, but it's very difficult to determine exactly how many elephants there are here, but I'd give it a good guess of maybe about 30 to 40 that we can see currently. And you can see there's ample water around, ample mud. So these creatures are in no rush, of course, to go anywhere. Food and water, two major drivers. But what's interesting though is we can see the substantial numbers of elephants gathering here, and Botswana being the country in Africa known to host most of Africa's current elephant population. Now, if I'm not mistaken, at any given time, more than 50% of the larger elephant population within Africa can be spending its time between Zimbabwe, Botswana, and South Africa, and Mozambique. And we can see the numbers have done really well in recovering in certain areas in Africa. And what a spectacular sight. It's just something different about looking at a watering hole or a river system or a large open plain and seeing a vast number of elephants. If you look carefully at all of these ones here, you can see the zebra in between, finding their gaps to come and drink the water. But then you also have the elephants doing their own little things, each of them cooling themselves down, some of them playing there in the back, in the center of the screen. Looks like some younger ones. Bush Guy is asking, if elephant populations decline, what are the long-term effects, and what will the long-term effects be on soil fertility, carbon storage, or plant diversity? Well, Bush Guy, that is a very, very good question. I would not be able to answer that question in depth, to be honest. I think it's still pretty much an ongoing debate, to be honest. In short, I think there's a lot of speculation and there's definitely a lot of science that can back certain beliefs up. But in reality, I don't think we quite know. Long-term effects, all I know is long-term effects of elephant populations increases have had dire effects in certain ecosystems. Tsavo West, Chobe, certain countries, even South Africa currently in the Kruger National Park. We are looking at a potential elephant overpopulation, and that we know has short-term dire effects that might lead to long-term effects that will not be able to recover. But generally speaking, the elephant is an ecosystem engineer, so vitally important. It's a very large animal. It means it designs ecosystems and affects its functionality to a great extent. The elephant, especially the savanna elephant, is a creature that essentially promotes grasslands. It opens up dense and areas covered with woody species. And it kind of creates these dense stands of trees and forests with interspersed with open savanna plains. So the elephant does play a big part in shaping an ecosystem. It certainly contributes to soil fertility in certain areas. Its drop of dung, its dispersal of seeds, also by removing of trees in certain areas that might affect the soil fertility after a while. So yeah, I guess it would depend on the area, it would depend on other factors, it would depend on the population size, the regions. Like elephants are also known in some regions to spend certain periods of time, even though it's not very long, in certain regions and affecting those regions greatly, but not necessarily on a prolonged period of time. So I think your question, Bushkai, is an extremely difficult question to answer straightforward, but I would have to say that in short, if elephant populations decline, who would know? I think if elephants completely disappear, it might definitely lead to the collapse of certain ecosystems, unfortunately. And that's not something we would like to see. But having said that, I think currently what Africa is facing is the fact that even though their numbers are recovering in certain areas, I think it's not so much about the elephant numbers, but more about the space that elephants need. I think elephant conservation and elephant numbers is in need of space. Elephants is a large animal and it needs a lot of space. So too many elephants in too little space is also not a good thing. Mayesh is saying that it's lovely to see all the animals in this sighting. I agree, Mayesh. It is. It's indeed amazing. And it looks like there's another herd of elephants coming in to drink. You can see there's a bit of excitement. And sticking together, each group to his own. But there was like a moment there where it seemed like they almost couldn't contain the excitement. There's also a lot of big birds coming in. What an amazing scene. can see some cloud movement moving over this area, a large shady patch, and I'm sure in the heat of the day a cloud moving over is very, very much welcomed by certain animals. Although there are certain animals that's just better adapted for the midday heat under the African sun. If there's water, the elephant certainly spends ample time near it, and then also the zebra. Nothing quite like seeing a zebra in Botswana, that's for sure. Being its national animal, if I'm not mistaken. I can see some of the elephants in that herd there at the back is already moving back away from the water again. Excuse me. Now, this is another thing that we also see and notice when elephants are found in large numbers around water. So, I just heard that there is apparently a lion at Olifants River, so I think we're going to head back over there to see if we can get a view of that lion. Now we have some relaxed impala there, but I can hear the monkey shouting. The well-known vervet monkey alarm call. And even though for the monkey it's to tell the predator that it can see it, to all the other creatures, it could be an indication that there is a predator. Monkeys are very, very sharp. They've got very keen eyesight. They have the ability to climb. So the fact that they can sit a little bit higher. Ooh. But for now we can't see the lion. I am told that it might be just here somewhere. And with the impala that relaxed and this close, potentially we might have some luck here on Easter with the lion looking for its Easter meal. You can see this lush vegetation certainly would provide ample cover all the way to where those impalas are. Can't even see if they're standing or laying down. Might just be on the other side of a little bank there. Looks like here's a little one getting groomed by the mother and grooming the mother. Now that would be something to see. But the monkeys are certainly still going. And one thing about monkeys is monkeys generally, they keep calling for quite a while. It is quite interesting. Like all this water certainly draws a lot of critters from all over. I can see it looks a little bit cloudy as well, which means that predators like lions are a little bit more active than they normally would be this time of the day. So definitely I think it would be worth our while to stick here for a little bit. You can hear those monkeys are still going. They're still calling, they're still alarming. It means, I'm sure it means they must still be seeing the predator around, even though we are not seeing it. The impala, on the other hand, they are probably so used to hearing monkeys call without always knowing exactly why. They don't have the height advantage that the monkey up in a tree would have. So we got a question from Nessie asking, how intelligent are vervet monkeys compared to other primates, and can they recognize individual monkeys or even humans? That's a good question, Nessie. I'm not too sure if they can recognize humans. I'm sure they would be able to. From what I've experienced, that there are certain humans, especially in certain areas, where they can tend to become a little bit of a nuisance. Often picnic spots in national parks, they tend to recognize the people working there very, very well compared to day visitors. They know when to stay away and who to hide from. And often I've watched when people approach to try and shoo them away, they know which ones to run from and which ones to stand their ground. Vervet monkeys are extremely intelligent. All primates are. Compared to others, I'm not exactly sure where they would sit on the scale. But yeah, at least from what I've experienced, they are very intelligent and certainly know their way around human behavior if they get in contact with people regularly. Andy's asking if lions eat monkeys. Andy, yes, they do. They definitely do. If they get the chance, I'm sure it doesn't happen often, but yes, they do. In fact, yeah, I've actually watched a video of leopard chasing monkeys in the tree. And there's some incredible footage taken down in the Sabi Sands of a leopard chasing a vervet monkey through the trees. If lion gets a chance, it certainly would. A lion's a very large animal, and the energy spent versus the reward is not always, it doesn't always add up. Maybe the effort that it would take to catch a monkey is not always worth it for lions, but certainly given the chance, they would 100% go after a monkey. And I have seen a young lion feed on a monkey before. How exactly it caught the monkey, I do not know. I reckon that maybe the monkey was caught out in the open by surprise, and maybe that's how the lion got it. But yes, those calls from those monkeys are not for no reason. They know very well that lions can be dangerous. Sounds like the calls have gone quiet now, which means that they might not see the lion anymore. Maybe they just haven't seen it for a while. Now the question is, should we stay here for a few minutes longer, or should we go somewhere else? I think maybe we can give it another minute or two just to see, because there are also more impala coming down now, and maybe that's exactly what that lion wanted, to stay out of sight long enough so the monkeys stop calling, and the antelope keep going about their business, unperturbed to the fact that there might potentially be a lion or a predator nearby. Especially now, it looks like there's a little bit of a breeze that's picked up, and certainly probably channeled along the river. So that would also aid in this lion's favor. That is, if it doesn't do the opposite and enables the impala to pick up on its scent. Melanistic Marble is saying the lion hunt instead of an Easter egg hunt. Indeed. I would really, really like to see a lion hunt. I've had an Easter egg hunt for the last 3 days, even though I have not had any Easter eggs myself. Still a fun game, but compared to a potential lion hunt, I'd say I'd definitely go with a lion hunt. So Silly Gilly is asking an interesting question, asking if our natural areas that are grazed have a problem with alien vegetation. So very, very good question, and yes, I think in short the simple answer would be yes. There are definitely some areas that due to overgrazing is affected or becomes susceptible to alien plant vegetation. Also encroaching species, not even alien species, but native species that just takes over and favors disturbed areas, especially in areas surrounding our national parks. We often find that there used to be a lot of cattle grazing grounds and farms, and a lot of those were overgrazed back in the days, and because of that became susceptible to foreign or alien plants that came in whichever way. Sometimes, especially riverbanks, it's prone to disturbance, not just by animals overgrazing it, but also by the water washing away certain parts. Along this bank here now, there's been great destruction this year due to the high water levels, so I'm pretty sure there's also some interesting alien species that would have come from outside of the park areas and it will establish themselves. And a lot of our problem species come from South Americas and also from India. But these impala seem to have escaped danger for now. And unfortunately, we haven't seen any sign of the lion or heard the monkeys calling. So I think maybe what we should do is leave the Olifants River and we head over to Nkoro, where we have some zebra and impala.
When nature calls, Maui is the only answer. Satisfy your wanderlust and take to the open road in one of our fully equipped motorhomes. Boasting a fridge, gas stovetop, AC and bathroom, our motorhomes are comfortable and spacious, making any self-drive adventure in the Kruger or garden route memorable. Whether you travel alone, as a couple or the whole family, Maui has a motorhome for you. Maui, home where you roam.
Some rivalries don't need explaining. They're felt. They're etched into history. The All Blacks, the Springboks, head to head in South Africa. Join us for 2 unforgettable tests, from the fiercest rivalry in sport to luxury safari, hosted by a Springbok legend. Rugby and Safari by Wild Earth Travel. The greatest rivalry, experienced the only way it should be.
The Explorer Chat is a magnificent way to make new friends who share your interest in nature. As an explorer, you'll also get your very own dashboard and personalized profile, plus the ability to save and share your favorite wildlife incidents with our brand new Safari Screenshots feature. Share sightings, swap stories, and experience nature together with people who feel the same pull to the wild as you do. Wild Earth Explorers, wilder together.
When adventure calls, answer with Brits. Take on Southern Africa's most breathtaking landscapes from behind the wheel of a fully equipped 4x4 or SUV. From tents and bedding to a fridge and full kitchen gear, everything you need is already on board. And with 24-hour roadside assistance, you're free to go further and explore with confidence. Open roads, total freedom, no limits, just the journey ahead. Brits, equipped for adventure.
By ensuring that you're not standing alone on the outside, but that is a decent herd. Look at the nice shade that big tree, I presume what is a knobthorn, is providing. And it's interesting to see it looks a little bit greener at the base of that tree, probably from the shade covering the grass during certain times of the day, but also I think the fact that it's probably been grazed a little bit more recently and kept green by creatures in the trees, birds doing their droppings, the leaves and the twigs wilting. So the soil at the base of that tree is probably a little bit more fertile than further away. But interesting to see how the 2 zebras are utilizing that patch of shade to feed from. Now, Silly Gilly also made a comment on that there was no lion at Olifants, but you see Bigfoot in the background from Moonlight at Midnight. With Bigfoot, I'm presuming you are talking about the elephant. Indeed, a Bigfoot. And then we've also got a question from Connor about zebras. It's asking, why do zebra foals have brownish stripes at birth that darken as they grow? And that's a very good question, Connor. I've often noticed that some of those young zebras actually have almost like I wouldn't even say it's quite brown yet. It's like almost like a golden color of the stripes, especially around the face, the lower parts of the legs, and on the backside, and then gradually becomes darker. Now, I'm assuming that's as the hormones develop with a little foal as it grows and the melanin production increases and the little creature gets to fully get into his adult coat. It might also play a little bit of a advantageous role in camouflage when the little creature is born at the beginning, hiding in the tall grass. I think it would definitely aid a little bit. But then again, also zebras' coats do serve as camouflage in a way. And being in a group, one theory suggests that it's more difficult for predators to actually separate one animal from the group. But a good question. Because I've also noticed that in certain areas, certain regions, certain herds, and others, I haven't seen any of that. So it might also have to do with the genetics of zebras in certain regions. But yeah, I do find a baby zebra, especially those ones with those brownish and goldenish stripes around the face, quite pretty. And it is quite nice to see it develop into the darker stripes. And there goes the zebra off out of its shady patch. So while we leave this tranquil scene where the impala is enjoying the lush vegetation that's still left, I think we're going to head back to Olifants just to go see if maybe we might have luck in spotting that lion. You can see an impala's back end there. You can see they don't look too worried. There's so much to feed off. Literally, you can see it jump from one bush to the next, moving up the bank, down the bank. I'm sure there is so much for them here currently, especially these creatures are mixed feeders, meaning that they both eat leaves as well as grass and whatever else. Very, very adaptable antelope, as long as there's water, standing water or surface water. I'm also quite confident in their speed and agility. And so we do sometimes see them wander down to the rivers. But just look at all those yellow flowers. I would actually love to know what they are. But no sign of that lion for now, unfortunately. Just these impalas feeding. That one does look like it's standing a little bit on its own, and if the monkeys were shouting as much as they did earlier, I would, if I was an impala, not be doing that. But then again, maybe that impala is well aware of its surrounds, even though it doesn't look like it. But it is incredible to see just how green the banks of the Olifants River is after all the rain its area has had this year. And certainly for this region, it would provide a lot of sustenance for the plant eaters into this coming dry season. It's very, very nice to get to catch up and get to see some of these areas this afternoon. But from me, I'd like to say thank you to all our viewers for this afternoon. I hope you have a wonderful Easter Sunday. And I will see you next time at Live at the Watering Hole.